Thank you for joining the Essential Therapies podcast. Dr. Cindy here, and I just want to let you know that if you are interested in the P90 after listening to this amazing interview with Adam, to reach out to Essential Therapies to order or to try it out in our Toledo or Pioneer, Ohio location. So this is what we're talking about, the Tera P90. It is this very simple device where you put your feet on this little box and you sit there for up to 30 minutes twice a day. It is amazing using Terahertz and P.E.M.F technology. Reach out to Essential Therapies at ESStherapy, THERAPY.com. That's Edward Sam like in Essential, ESStherapy, THERAPY.com, or give us a call or text at 419-344-2223 for you to try the Tera P90 or order one for yourself. Stay tuned and listen to this amazing information for this incredible device. Hello and welcome to the Essential Therapies podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Dr. Cindy Hodgson here. I'm a physical therapist, exercise physiologist, specializing in myofascial release. And I am so excited to share this special guest with you today. Adam Ocean is someone I have just recently met, as I have come across this incredible device called the Tera P90. And I am not going to waste time, and I'm going to let him get right into it because I am running into trouble explaining all the amazing things that this device can do. And I'm super excited to see what it does for fascia and just so many other things in life. So Adam, tell us who you are and what we are here to talk about tonight.
Okay, well, who I am is not all that important. I've just been everywhere, done everything under the sun. I love everything natural health. I don't really have any health issues. I was like a 300-pound alcoholic in my late 20s. My mom had 16 mercury fillings removed and then put back in right before she got pregnant with me. The military kept pumping me full of that were just whisked away from my shot records. They put me on something known as Lariam, which is the military suicide pill that ate giant holes in my brain. So that, like all of those different things, the prefrontal cortex being destroyed by mercury from my mother before she got pregnant with me. And so the ADD and the impulse control due to massive nerve demyelination and injury when I was younger, in the chronic ear infections. And it just like, I had a very challenging all the way up until about the end of my Saturn return around 29 and a half. It was just, God just piled things on me over and over and over to be like, listen, you're going to be really physically durable. You're going to get through it fine, but you're going to have some of these challenges, but there's a reason for it, because if you didn't go through all of these things, you'd never understand it. You'd never be motivated enough and pushed enough to say, well, hey, I want to start learning about natural health more than just, well, here's some exercise and here's some vitamins and, a little bit of peptides. And, back in, right around 23, 24, I was believed in the pharmaceutical world for a large extent. Be like, oh, doctors know what they're doing. And, pharmacology, I wanted to go to pharmacology when I was in college. And, unfortunately, my ADD got the better of me. And that didn't happen. So, but, it was great. And it was really funny because I actually was in nursing school, got deployed, came back home after about a year, was going to be a firefighter, all these different things, natural health, exercise science and physiology and pharmacology. Like I just dabbled in it just to get a great base level everything. And out of nowhere, I just decided, done with this, I'm going to be a photographer. So I learned photography and Photoshop and graphic design and photo editing and video editing and marketing. And I just self-taught myself all of that. But it was really fun because I've always loved physics. I've always loved chemistry, both Newtonian physics, quantum physics. All of it's been a fascination of mine, but to be able to piece together through photography, both quantum physics and Newtonian physics, to look at it in terms of the interpretation. And then I've used to build computers for a living, or well, not so much for a living, but for a hobby, just because I like video games. So I'm like, well, I want a faster computer. So I'm going to learn how to build my computer from scratch and learn what every component is. But through all of that, I've been able to take a look at, we're a biological computing system. We're really not all that different than, my giant computer I've got over here that's got a liquid cooled CPU, GPU, 128 gigs of RAM, solid state hard drives of, I think they're M.24s of a RAID 0 for the faster transfer back and forth, and the upgraded sound card. But all of that can be equivalated to our biological processing systems. But as we start to move on, just like we've got, a binary computing system like the computers we're using right now, there's a quantum computing system that's exponentially more powerful. And we can take a look at our physiology on a gross level. Our anatomy and physiology is very akin to a binary computing system. But when we start talking fascia, emotions, spirituality, microtubules, consciousness, now we move into the quantum computing realm, that we start to take a look at the human body and consciousness as it is in general, of how much more beautiful it gets than a binary system of nerves are on, nerves are off. We get to move into on, off, both, and zero. And we get to now move into that sort of fascinating field. I've got my piano in the background. It's a 1924 Steinway retuned to 432 Hertz. I've got my one wheel laying over here because I love neuroplasticity enhancement. After I had holes eaten in my brain, I love learning how to I have to rebuild my brain. I have to relearn piano. But I mean, you can always treat learning as fun. So like my one wheel, I switch which foot is forward, back and forth, so that I've got my, my motor cortex has to learn to flip-flop back and forth of which foot is leading. But that's a great, basic, little, simple neuroplasticity enhancement to embrace masculine, feminine, left brain, right brain, and then bring that together of, as Carl Sagan says, to say science without, and spirituality, to say they're somehow mutually exclusive, does a great disservice to both. So I love the whole embodiment of all of it. Left field, right field, far out, not so far out, masculine, feminine, binary, quantum, Newtonian. The merging of all of it together is where you find the beauty of going. There's so many facets of reality, and especially when it comes to health and consciousness and just humanity in general, reality in general, it makes it so much more fun when I love to always just say, I'll just pretend I don't know everything. Just keep it coming at me. I can say, well, I've noticed some things, but I don't know everything. But I'm happy to talk about a whole bunch of stuff that is very, right now, fringe science, but very based in solid left brain, mathematical, logical science. It's just medical world hasn't caught up to it yet.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fringe, I'm a John Barnes myofascial release physical therapist, and he's been teaching this work for over 50 years, and was so fringe back then. He was really kind of, he's had to fight the way into really helping people, right? It's a hard time. But what you said a moment ago reminds me very much of fascia, and the way that we treat it is very gentle, and how we connect to that barrier to create change. But my doctoral degree is in biomechanics, which was based on a very linear system of angles and levers and pulleys, but that's not how our body is really put together. We now know that the fascia is biotensegrity, based on very similar to the tensegrity structures of architecture, and there's just so much more. So let's tell me about the P90. Let's just get into how that connects to all the stuff that you just said.
Now we've encompassed everything. Let's kind of bring it back to that, to say, and the reason why I love always kind of bringing it back to right now, it's a fascination of mine, because as you and I both, we've played with so many modalities, so much education, working with people in so many different ways. I've got, like I said, I've got 2,000 different essential oils here. I've got 200 pounds of quartz crystal singing bowls, and I don't know how many thousand pounds of crystals, just because I love them. Their crystallography is fascinating, and so is metallurgy. But I was working a lot with it in my practice of helping people with trauma detox. And, I didn't so much get into the work that you do. I normally referred that out of just saying, listen, somebody else is better at that than me. That's not my job. Mine is this field here. Here's what I do to help people. But as I was moving along, the P90 just kind of entered my world out of nowhere. One of my friends just hit me up and said, hey, you ever heard of this company, OlyLife? I'm like, well, no, what is it? They're like, well, it's a P.E.M.F and Terahertz Wave device. And I went, okay, listen, I've got another company I used to work with, but their product quality went out the window. It was really neat. So I'm interested. Tell me more. So I kind of looked into who the company was, what they were doing. They've got 158 different patents on their devices. And I went, okay, I love the field of P.E.M.F and terahertz of what this can do, because I mean, terahertz waves are so biocompatible in terms of a frequency device. There's 10, and I'm not knocking any other device out there. There's, TENS units and Rife units, and there's all these different frequency devices you can use. I mean, like quartz crystal singing bowls are a frequency device, really. Sure. Acoustic frequency. There's a piezoelectric field that comes off them that's shaped. But I ended up getting into this device, and it just became, the first time I used it, I slept for 3 days straight. I used it on a level 1 for 30 minutes before bed, and I'm durable. It takes a lot to shift me, if you will, or hit me in any way, shape, or form. Like, I can take all the essential oils and vitamins and everything under the sun. Doesn't really do that much to me. It's I'm sensitive enough to feel and understand, but I'm durable enough that it takes a lot to really knock me down. Well, this device, a level 1 for 30 minutes, I slept for 3 days straight because I'm a very high energy individual and I don't relax very well. So it was the most amazing and incredible stress system override to reset my sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. I went, okay, listen, if I used it once and it did this to me, there is nothing on the planet that hits me that hard, especially not time 1, that kind of low level, and to last for that many different days. So the P90 is both a P.E.M.F and a terahertz wave device. And so once again, I'm not knocking other companies. There's a lot of good P.E.M.F devices out there. The problem is they're really expensive, and a lot of them, even if they're expensive, aren't that good. And I'm not being mean to them. It's just, as technology advances, things become obsolete. And as we as a species advance, things get different. The P.E.M.F that used to work with what the Schumann resonance was at the time, as we keep getting hit with solar flares and humanity kind of keeps like upgrading itself, new technologies are more important. And so I found this one and just went, well, it's a quarter the price of most P.E.M.F devices, and it's got terahertz waves in it. This has me really excited. I just hope it works well. So it showed up, it rocked my world more than any other P.E.M.F device that I've tried. And I've done amp coils, I've done beamers. I don't even know how many different ones I've tried. And they were great. They were okay at the time, but none of them like really went, wow, this is something that's groundbreaking. This P90, not only me, but almost every single person that uses it just has their world completely changed. And so for me, what ended up happening I abandoned like my entire personal coaching practice and the emotional trauma and everything that I was doing, because I found I just kind of became obsolete. Not in a bad way, but this device, for the cost and for the time, was such a better solution for my clients to go, just get one of these, because nobody regulates their stress response. Nobody does. And if you're in fight or flight, nothing else in the body will work. You can't get any fascia release in the body if you're in fight or flight. We can go crank on it all we want all day long. And that's the problem. We always think, well, let's just muscle through it and make it work. That's not what you need to do. You got to have the body in a state of release and receive, or rest and digest, versus fight or flight. So I basically just abandoned my entire practice to go, I'm just going to work with this device, because rather than people come in and I spend the first 45 minutes to an hour just getting them into a parasympathetic state so I can actually work with them, I found I can just put their feet on this device and it does the job for me. And now I can work with them right out the gate. And it's an unassisted therapy. But the thing is, it's not just regulating a stress response. It's every cell, it's every organ, it's every ailment. There is literally not one thing in terms of human ailments that you could name, or human health. I like to kind of look at it that way more. There's not one thing in terms of human health that you could name that this device does not positively benefit. So rather than working with 20 different modalities and having to adjust around and cater to each person and interview them and then work, just a little step here and try to stack them together and they got to come back and visit, I just found to go, this device just makes life so much easier for everybody, and it saves them a fortune. And now it's not that I've been replaced, it's just that it takes instead of me having to do the same thing over and over and over and over for every person, for 80% of the time they come work with me, I can go use this device. And if use it before you come see me, or you come in and you sit down to use it, and then we'll go get to work, I now don't have to do an hour and a half. I can do 30 minutes to 45 minutes and get 10 times more benefits out of it, because it just does so many things to help assist me. So I don't feel like I've been replaced or I'm obsolete. I just went, when you find a better tool, use it. Like, this way I can make so much better use of my time and then help the general population as a whole so much faster for so much more affordably in such a shorter amount of time. This device has been the most mind-blowing thing I've worked with in forever, and boy, does it excite me.
So for those who don't even know what PEMF is, okay, or terahertz, let's give them a little bit of intro to that. And I love how you say, you know, we can't muscle through things. So with the John Barnes approach, we are very gentle, and John teaches, in fact, that's what my logo is about. It's, you know, channel 3 versus channel 5. Channel 3 is that being centered and being present and getting into that heart space, and as instead of like the head space, right? So what you're saying, it sounds like to me, and I've experienced this already with using this device, it is very calming and maybe helps make the body more receptive on an energetic level. But why? What is the mechanism around that for both PEMF and terahertz?
Oh, and this is the funnest topic. Unfortunately, it's really long, but I'm going to condense it down as much as possible. So PEMF stands for pulsed electromagnetic frequency. So we live in a 3D time space here on planet Earth. The Earth itself has a magnetic field, just like the Schumann resonance that, you know, 7.83 hertz or whatever it's up to or down to now, just depending on the day. The Earth has its own electromagnetic heartbeat that basically is a metronome for our cells. Like we're talking music, there's a base level music that, you know, if you're playing only on your own, you don't need a metronome. It's cool if you want to drift all over the place. But we've got billions or trillions of cells that are all working together. They need to have a heartbeat, not just our heartbeat, but an electromagnetic heartbeat that is a time-space synchronization to say, here is like your rhythm you follow along with, and it keeps your cells in check with each other. And we're supposed to be, you know, if we're out in nature and we're barefoot and we're grounding, or if that's what we're out doing, we're naturally connecting to that heartbeat of the Earth that keeps us phase locked in 3D time space reality. So our bodies and cells know how to stay in rhythm with each other. When we get EMFs, when we get pollutions, when we get, you know, different toxins, poisons we ingest, when we get mentally frazzled, all of these things disconnect us from that. So like you were talking about, of we get up in that headspace, a lot of times we'll literally dissociate from our bodies and not even know it. 99% of the population's living in PTSD level stress has no idea. So we've got all of these dissociation coping mechanisms. We're up in our head. We're not grounded in our heart. We're not in our body. We're not in line and in rhythm with this natural magnetic field that we're supposed to be in sync with. And so when we live in these metal buildings and the EMFs, it completely disrupts our body's ability to stay in rhythm where they were designed. We're carbon-based life beings that are designed to be in connection with the Earth and have this heartbeat along with ours with the Earth to be phase locked into 3D reality. So PEMF, what it's really good at doing is bringing you back to that. And when we do that, that resets the parasympathetic nervous system. It restores the electromagnetic charge in all of our cells, and especially our red blood cells, because we have red blood cells, biconcave discs. They're supposed to be magnetically charged, so they repel each other because there's a certain amount of surface area that carries oxygen on each side that when they start to clump together, now I've lost almost 50% of the surface area if they clump together. This part and this part can't absorb oxygen as if they were apart. Now this side can, this side can. And then we lose that microcirculation because when they all clump up together, they can't fit through the little small capillaries, because that's the number one thing we need. blood flow to deliver oxygen and nutrients to the different cells and different organs. PEMF re-energizes those red blood cells with that magnetic field so they repel each other again, so they can flow into all the areas they're supposed to, so they can pick up all the oxygen that they're supposed to and remove, the CO2 from there as well. So that's a huge thing of what PEMF does. It restores that magnetic charge and that heartbeat that we're supposed to be in rhythm with, and just it puts us back in sync, and it allows for that microcirculation and the oxygen absorption and keeping the red blood cells from clumping. And when you do that, the body then just works how it's designed to. The human body is an absolute miracle. But when it's all choked up with EMFs and we've lost our cellular voltage and we've got, no magnetic charge left to us, all these terrible things happen because the body just can't do what it's designed to. So the PEMF is, I wouldn't just say it's relaxing, but it's really good for doing that, because guess what? Nobody's good at managing their stress complex anymore. Even the people that do yoga and meditation and breath work and singing bowls, like I'm as guilty as anybody. But I've got 4 kids, I run a number of businesses, I've got things going on. None of us regulate our stress complex well. You step out of your door, every single person you go meet, they're in fight or flight. They have no idea. They're not. And most people, just to relax, they end up abusing some kind of substance in order to relax. And that doesn't actually relax you. That causes more problems for the temporary relaxation. So this device for that's the PEMF part, but that's the left hand. The Terahertz waves is kind of like the light of life. Our cells have a cellular Wi-Fi that's built into them. That's a biological Wi-Fi. We can take a look at even single-celled organisms. They've got no brain. How do they know how to operate? How do they know what to even do? They don't even have a brain. They're a single-celled thing. There's these terahertz waves that are a cellular Wi-Fi built in that communicates not only in the cell, but cell to cell. So if we go into the field of chiropractic, not chiropractic, well, even chiropractic, but acupuncture is the best way to baseline this, of saying, oh, well, in the chiropractic field, you've got a blocked meridian. What's that even mean? Well, the energy's not flowing. But what energy? What do you mean? It's literally, there's a flow of terahertz wave energy through the whole body, and it's the cellular Wi-Fi. It's how all the cells not only communicate, but power cellular functions. This cellular Wi-Fi isn't just for information communication. Water has this insane ability and affinity for terahertz waves, and because we're water-based beings. We're almost entirely water is what we are. We're 70% by weight, roughly, or if we look at the number of water molecules to the rest of ourselves, we're like 99% water molecules by number, 70% by weight. So the cellular Wi-Fi of terahertz waves, your cells literally use these to communicate through the entire body up and down, and we can call this chi, we can call it prana, we call it kundalini. It's an energy form that also doubles as a communication form. And so the more as people start doing, say, breath work or Qigong or kundalini fire energy breathing, as you start, basically as your vitality level goes up, you emit more terahertz waves, because it's a form of energy, and it's the basic foundation of energy in the body. And so you get into acupuncture, you got a blocked chi or, blocked meridian, the energy, that means terahertz waves aren't moving through it. So when we use the acupuncture and we can even get into the fascia, starts to get through this, because these terahertz waves don't just travel wirelessly, they convert back and forth from electrical energy to wireless energy to a quantum transmission that's not even like a normal measurable energy, that it gets into quantum tunneling and all the quantum processing inside of our microtubules. They call it the light of life. There's a great new article that came out of basically saying this this terahertz wave is the light foundation that all life is basically built around, because of its affinity for water, because of its affinity for biological cells, and it's non-ionizing radiation, meaning it doesn't cause inflammation, free radical damage, DNA damage. It actually has the opposite effect, that it will power protein folding. Water will pick up this terahertz waves when it's directed appropriately. Water will pick it up and transform into a pentagonal dodecahedrogonal water cluster It's a big fancy word. Scientists call
I
it
love it.
water. But it's found inside all of our microtubules. It's found around all of our fascia. And it's a room temperature superconductor and supercapacitor. So it not only transmits electrical energy with no resistance, but also stores huge quantities of it that's then used to guide and power protein folding, because we get into fascia. What is that protein? What's our DNA? Protein. Proteins basically build up our everything that's not bones. Everything that's not bones is all protein for the most part. Tendons, ligaments, muscle, fascia, skin. I mean, even our brain. I mean, fats and proteins. So that's where these terahertz waves come in, that they power all of these biological functions. They're literally, it's the light of life that's a measurement of your vitality, that interacts with water, changes the bonding angles of the hydrogen, structures the water not only from the fourth phase of water that many people are familiar with, like Dr. Gerald Pollack. There's the fifth phase of water, that's that atomic water, which is the pentagonal dodecahedrogonal water I talked about. And I know it's a big fancy term, but it just means water has this affinity that it picks up this energy. It will structure itself, and it acts as a battery and a conductor at the same time because of these terahertz waves. And at the very center of consciousness itself, inside of our microtubules don't function without this special water form inside of it that requires terahertz waves to literally funnel our consciousness to the TV show known as you inside of your microtubules, to bring, the science field maybe doesn't get into this so much, but saying to funnel the soul to your body. What's the signal of your soul? How does it know to get into your physical body? It's through microtubules, but without this water and terahertz waves, it can't happen. So kind of bringing it back around after I got everything really complex, it's sort of saying PEMF is like your left hand. It's sort of like the earth, it's the ground. Think of it as like the roots of a plant. Terahertz waves is the right hand, it's like the sunlight. So what happens that we've got a lot of us running around, we don't have good roots. We're all stressed out. So we have no roots. We have nothing to pick up the nutrients, because when you're stressed out, you don't absorb any nutrients. You don't absorb any kind of water. It's as if you're a plant with no roots. So the PEMF helps you. If you were a plant, we're just using an analogy here. The PEMF helps you grow the roots, to stabilize yourself, to drain off the excess free electrons and the EMFs, and get you stabilized. But the thing is, what's great about this device, what happens if you've got a plant that's got a lot of roots but no sunlight? It will. So there's no energy left. So we can, we get to a certain limitation with just a PEMF device. That, yeah, we grew a whole bunch of roots, but where's your energy? There isn't any. That's where terahertz waves come in. They're like the sunlight to the plant. They're the sunlight to our bodies. That by adding that, too much sunlight, what happens? The plant wilts and dies. No sunlight, what happens? The plant wilts and dies. So when we're able to add both, it's as if we're adding both the sunlight and the roots both at once for our body, that it massively, rapidly recharges cell voltage, increases the circulation, and it's powering protein folding consciousness at its core. And I mean, the P.E.M.F has been it's been FDA approved. I'm not saying this device, I'm not making medical claims, but you can go Google P.E.M.F and find out that it's been FDA approved for depression, anxiety, strokes, TBIs, bone fracture regeneration, because we're piezoelectric beings. We work on electricity and magnetic waves. So when we're adding this into our body to get it back into where it needs to be, it's like cheating and plugging our body into a rapid cell phone charger, saying, well, I can sit here, and I'm not saying don't do this, but I can sit here and eat all the green smoothies and all the sunlight energy that's been captured by the sun and the foods that I'm eating. There's nothing wrong with that, but as technology advances, why don't we cheat? Why don't we, if I could just put my feet on something I plug into a wall, and I can get pretty much the same benefits, and you could do both. That's the best part about this device. Any other complementary therapy that you do, this device will only make it work better, because it's like digital green smoothies. I think is a really good way to put it, to say it's gonna recharge every cell, every organ system. There's not one ailment that it doesn't assist with. And then it's not just for sick people. Healthy people that want to enhance their consciousness, This is one of the coolest tools on the planet. I love neuroplasticity hacking. I was talking about my one wheel. If I switch left foot, right foot, the Terahertz waves, there's still, you can go Google Terahertz waves, rat severed spinal cords. They actually severed rat spinal cords and then irradiated them. That's not a bad word. That just means they used terahertz waves to shine down on them. So they used terahertz waves and they were able to start regenerating severed spinal cords in rats. Terahertz waves signal nerve remyelination. They signal nerve outgrowth and neuroplasticity. P.E.M.F does that too for the people that want to take their consciousness, their learning, and their brain and enhance it even further. This device not only is for sick people, it's for healthy people, that it doesn't matter who you are. It skyrockets your consciousness, your vitality, and your levels of health, that it's every cell, every organ, every ailment. This one thing will save you so much money and so much time over everything else, but everything else you do, it just makes it work better. So when we plug this into all of the natural health field, we've now got, I hate calling it a web, we've got a tool that helps us replace the old model better, faster, cheaper, and more effectively. That's what this device does. It's one of the greatest tools that humanity could find at the current moment to help us get out of this rut we found ourselves in, because we're at a time that there's no excuse for it, but unfortunately here we are. Humanity is at almost its lowest vibration ever. There's more unhealthy people everywhere than there's probably ever been. Yeah, we're living longer, but are we healthier? No, we're a train wreck. So as a species, we're an utter train wreck. So this device is a cornerstone for being able to transform not only ourselves, but by transforming ourselves, we get to transform the world through it.
Wow. So, you know what I can hear people saying right now? That's too good to be true, right? But I want to say something about the microtubules, because, bringing this back to fascia a little bit. I mean, years ago now, there was a French surgeon, Dr. Guillemberto, who filmed Strolling Under the Skin, where, showing living pictures of fascia and the microtubules, and you can see, the water and like the crystallized water, fourth phase of water, right? We talk about that in myofascial release all the time. Don Barnes brings up Dr. Pollock's book a lot. And we are also realizing that, or, it's been said that that's our consciousness flowing through the fascia tubules, because it's not just a solid thing. It's like it's what I tell my patients, it's like a straw, and what's flowing through there is our consciousness. So that instant communication that you referenced, so I first started hearing about this when I was listening to the beginning information about P90. That's what made my ears go, whoa, we're talking about fascia here and consciousness, and the things that we talk about when we do body work gently and connecting with the patient, the mechanotransduction, which turns into the piezoelectric effect, and then ultimately resonance. And I can say, when I have my feet on this machine, especially when I'm able to really relax into it, sometimes I got to get work done, which what I love about this device is that you can sit there and still get the benefits of it and do other stuff if you need to. But if I want to sit there and really get into channel 3 and chill out, like, my body starts to unwind, and the resonance that I feel coming from this is insane. And I will say that I do notice a difference on some of the patients that I've worked with doing this, using this device. But can you tell me, since you've been using this device for how long? I'm curious about that. Okay, it helps every single cell, but let's get a little bit more specific for people who are like, okay, well, what about my arthritic knee that's bone on bone? Or what about, my mental health issues, or my clarity, or my chronic fatigue, or different things like that? Can you give some specifics to that?
Yep. And the great part is like, people don't have to take my word for it. Take any health issue you want to, Google P.E.M.F, whatever health issue you want. It's been FDA approved since, and I don't like the FDA, but there was enough science since the late 1970s. They were forced to approve it for depression, anxiety, bone regeneration, arthritis, inflammation, PTSD, anxiety. It's got nothing to do with me. This is the FDA had to approve it for that, because there was too much science. So, and now that was 40 years ago. So now we've come 40 years later. If you want to go Google any of it, you don't have to take my word for it. Go look it up. Like, I got no problem. Like, test me. Fine. Like, go look. But so in terms of one of the base key things to look at, why does it help everything? Because of that red blood cell thing that I talked about, or re-energizing it to restore the microcirculation and restore, it can boost oxygenation by 50%. That's the biggest thing. So people are talking about brain, cognitive function. What happens? Like, just fine, put a rubber band around your arm and cut off 50% of the circulation. What do you think is going to happen to your hand a year later when you've cut off 50% of the circulation? Everything's going to die. So the really simple part for the P.E.M.F. to make it, to turn it to a very simple concept, is just go rubber band your arm, cut off 50% of the blood flow for a year. Come back, tell me how that hand's doing. Now let's come back, pull the rubber band off, and then boost the circulation by 50%. What do you think's going to happen? It's not a really hard concept. So just that on its own, and the fact that there are tens of thousands of medical studies on P.E.M.F. alone, it'll help reduce the inflammation. It helps boost the immune system. Now we get into the Terahertz waves. It's newer technology, but there's still a lot of research in there. It helps upregulate all these epithelial tissue genes. You can Google, I'm making no claims, it's not a cure, but you can Google Terahertz waves cancer. It causes demethylation in cancer cells. It can be used for, I mean, there's remyelination. It signals the piezoelectric capacity that you can use this device. It's the equivalent of an hour's worth of exercise sitting down, roughly, for people. Because how do your muscles and your tendons and your ligaments and your joints know that you exercised? The piezoelectric stress of when you put the stress on a tendon or a ligament or a joint or a bone, there's an electric signal that says we've been put under stress, and our fascia is a big part of that. So we're basically signaling the body by just using a terahertz wave, which is already built into the body by default. We're just signaling it to say, I can use this terahertz wave device, and the body's going to think, hey, there's some terahertz wave energy activating all my piezoelectric genes. How do you think bone healing happens? How do your bones get stronger? Because you're putting pressure on them. They're piezoelectric. They release an electric charge. Same with fascia, same with tendons, same with ligaments, same with cartilage, except we're not actually stressing that area of the body out. We're just signaling it to regenerate. So it's not doing it for you, but it's working with the body's systems to say, it's like an alarm clock for it, being like, hey, wake up, regenerate, move all the circulation through it. And when you pair those two things together, there's so many cool things that can happen. And once again, you don't have to take my word for it. Just go Google terahertz and anything you want. It'll come up. You don't need to believe me. The science is already there. We've just found a company that happens to make a very good product for a very affordable price that does a lot, because it paired both of them together, which almost nobody else is doing. And then for the price tag that we've got, the effectiveness, we're like, it doesn't get any better than this device right now, because every single person, massage therapist, chiropractor, functional medicine doctor, myofascial stretchers, yogas, senior citizen centers, diabetes homes, stroke victims, all of these places, doesn't matter which one you name, they should be implementing this device because of all the things that it can do to help make what you already do work better. To give it to your patients as an unassisted therapy, or they do it at home. So when they come back to you, the body's not too stressed out. It's actually regenerating at home. It's building itself back up at home. So when they come in, their body's ready to do the work. And it won't be stressed out and freaked out by it because it's already regenerating when they're not even there. So it's almost like a youth restoration hormone. You get little kids, they're going to come in, you can work on them. They're going to go, bang, hey, see you later. Cool. No problem. They feel great. They'll come back in. They're like, oh, cool. We're going to do some more work. Boop, boop. No problem. What happens when we get older? We don't have that kind of vitality. This is a way to just cheat, because when new technology comes out, imagine, go back 30, 40 years and tell them about this phone that I've got. Oh, it's gotta be, no, there's no way. They're like, that can't be true, you crazy, whatever else. Technology changes. This is like a med bed right now. that doesn't cost you $100,000, doesn't even cost you $2,000. So everybody that's thinking, oh, the med bed technology, it's already here. And it doesn't cost you a fortune. And as technology changes, just like this phone, I mean, think even 15 years ago, but like I couldn't even have dreamed of this thing. I still had a flip phone that I was paying $3.99 for a ringtone, that now when my phone rings, I can't wait to throw my phone across the room saying, ah, get out of here. So as technology changes, it's all right. The old systems are going away as new things start coming, and it's just time to embrace them.
Yeah,
Don't fight them. Get with the program or get left behind is all there is to it.
Give it a try. And I love that, because it's true. We just have to keep moving forward. I will ask you this. I know we're coming up on time here that we want to close up, but one of the biggest questions I have from people, and I, have my little spiel that I say, but I'd love to hear what you have to say, is, where do I start? How much do I do? And what if I don't feel anything after using it a couple of times? How do you guide people?
Real easy. More is not better. We're Americans. One is good, but five is better. No, it is not. I have a number of people literally can use it 2 minutes a day because it's so powerful. That's the right number. I'm a very energetic individual. I use the thing maybe every other day, level 10 for 10 minutes. That's it. I don't use the low, but maybe once a month, because that's not right for me. The right level is what's right for you. Always start really low. Level 1, maybe 15 minutes, maybe 30. Say, oh, you don't feel it? Give it time, because we've got people that'll do level 1 for 15 minutes for a week, and on day 7 they go, I still don't feel it, nothing's going on. Day 8 they go, whoa, I gotta slow down. It's not a race. Find the levels that are right for you. Don't try and overdo it. Overdoing it is worse than not doing it. Well, almost worse than not doing it at all. So that's the biggest point, is start low, start slow. And the lower levels, they can work anytime. My favorite time, though, is to use them at night or before a session, like any kind of therapy session or whatever you're doing. And then the higher levels for shorter amounts of time, like say you want to do a level 5 or a 7 for 3 minutes in the morning, start with small amounts of time. Don't overdo it. Don't think more is better. No, it's not. Like if you haven't been exercising very much, do you think doing 2 hours, like going and running a marathon, is a good idea? No, it's not. So I don't want to be like rude or condescending. I'm just trying to get the point across to say, don't try to run a marathon on day 1. Go for a walk first, then see if you want to jog, then see if you want to run, then go see if you want to do a marathon. Less is more, even if you don't think you're feeling. If you want to feel it, fine. Turn it up to a level 10 for 2 minutes. You're going to go, okay, I feel it. And then back off and back down. Be like, if you really think you need to feel it, fine. Do that one time. Go ahead and feel it. But don't think that more is better. Don't think you need to be like, wow, I'm feeling it for it to be working. That's not the goal here. You're not trying to sprint through the race. It's the tortoise and the hare. Be the tortoise, because just do that, please. Don't be an American. 5 isn't better on this one. 1 is better. Start there.
So it's just kind of trial and error. And I guess sometimes it might take time, like maybe even several weeks or months for various things. And that's not a problem.
Honestly, even if people don't feel it doing anything, we have people after their first session, level 1 for 30 minutes, they don't notice anything the whole time, but they get up and go, okay, I feel different. Things are different. Or the next day they go, I slept so well. I feel great today. There's tons of people, time 1, you might not feel it like pulsing through you, but that doesn't mean it's not working. Always start low, always start slow, and you can always do more later. Unless you're going to die in a week, which hopefully you don't.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Give it a little bit of time. Don't try to run a marathon day 1. Walk, then jog, then run. Then you can talk about a marathon, and then you can talk about a triathlon. And just to be, just to put it into perspective, my dad jumped on the thing, level 10, 30 minutes every day right out the gate. He had no problem with it. He loved it. He's like, this is great. Let's rock. So it's not that you have to be afraid of it. It's just saying, Just remember, more isn't always better. Experiment with it, play with it, find the level that's right for you.
Mhm. Great. Okay. Thank you so much for all of this. I am curious to see if people have more questions. Maybe we hop on again sometime. I'm definitely having fun getting as many people on it in my studio as possible who are willing to try. And I'm excited that this will give more people the idea to do exactly that and see what it can do. It's very, very exciting stuff. So any last minute thoughts from you?
A last minute thought, all I can say, just try it. If you haven't tried it, just try it. You can look around at the testimonials. There are so many of them. I don't think we've had a single person that actually wants to return their device out of thousands of them. And working in the natural health field, if I get 30% of people love a product, to me, that's normally in the natural health field. Like you give them a natural health supplement, you get 30% of people love it. I'd normally consider that a pretty good win because it's hard to find something that works for everybody.
Absolutely.
This device, we're at about a 95% ratio of people. 95% of people love it. The other 5% still at least like it. That's an enormous success ratio. I am very happy to be working with that kind of number.
Yeah, me too. I'm very excited to be on this journey with you and everyone else here. So thank you so much, Adam. Thank you so much for listening today. If you know someone else who could benefit from this information, please share and subscribe to get more information as it comes out. And
all right, I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you for having me on. I know we're going to have future conversations.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Adam. Bye-bye.
Bye.